Welcome to Go For Your Life. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving me your listening ears. Woohoo! This is a podcast for everyone, about everything, and it's to encourage, inspire, uplift you to go for your life. And it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog, Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of Go For Your Life. And I am really excited about this one because especially, so we're welcoming Nicola. Hello, Nicola.
Hello.
Amsterdam to South Africa. Nicola is my website designer.
That's right.
Everybody goes straight away to carotech.com, checking out Nicola's work. Like, oh my God. And of course, also we have to give some credit to Maria, who also is the creative designer behind it all. But the thing was, so I wanted to have you on the podcast for a while because it's also nice because I really don't know you, so I have lots of questions. But my first question really was because when I went to your Instagram, which is great, by the way, and
Thank you.
and I always love what you're posting, and you're always very honest, and it's very refreshing, and it's very you just are who you are. There's no oh, I'm trying to sell you this product. It's also, and you ask a lot of questions, which I think is always making it interactive. But do I have it right that you mainly work with women?
Yes, I do. I have worked with men in the past, but I'm just naturally drawn to working with women and empowering women to create online businesses. That's my main focus. So yes, It's all about empowering women these days and working with women.
Wow, this is really, because I find it really interesting because do you feel, is it like something that you don't even look for? It just automatically happens that mostly women find you, or do you really put it out there like, hey,
I think in the beginning it definitely was just something that happened, and that's what I naturally attracted. And I naturally attract women that love the same things that I love. Like I love health and fitness, and I love the self-help kind of spiritual, that kind of industry, and that's what I attract. And I somehow also attract the wedding industry. I don't know why. I'm not even married. I've never dreamt of a massive wedding in my life, but for some reason it's like
trying to tell you something.
Yeah, they're trying to tell me something. So it's like wedding photographers, wedding dress designers or planners, and that have really just been attracted to me. And yeah, they've been amazing to work with. But so in the beginning, it was like, it just happened. And then I got into this. Obviously, when I became a mom, it was like, I want to empower women to create their own life, their own online businesses, and just, create that life freedom that most people crave. It's that time freedom and to do exactly what they love to do. And I see a business in everyone. When I see someone, is it a family member, my sister-in-law, my friends, I'm like, you should start a business. And they're like, no one wants to buy that. I'm like, everybody wants to buy that. They want to buy that. But where do we start? And I'm like, you just start. And then I'm like, I'll do the website for you. Don't worry. I'll do that part. You don't have to worry. But yeah, it's naturally it's women that I love to help.
That's really awesome, actually, because what is your your story is you obviously are a website designer, but do you come from, what was your background in that sense? Like, do you have a designing background or?
So it all started probably when I was like 11 years old. And I remember when my parents got dial-up. I don't know if you had dial-up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that sound, that sound like, that sound.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, my parents got dial-up, and we lived in a very small town in Botswana. And we were like the first people to get internet, which was amazing. And I was hooked. I don't know what it was about this, but I just loved it. I loved like computer science class, and I loved everything about computers. And so when I finished school, I was like, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I knew from like 11 years old, I wanted to do something around computers. I didn't know specifically that it was like the web, but I just knew it was around that. And then after school, I studied for a year, and I did like an intensive computer science diploma, and really dove into like programming and everything. And everybody went in one direction of like programming databases, and I was like, that is so boring. I was like, no, come on guys. And I was the only one out of like everybody, and there was like hundreds of us, that decided to go down. I mean, this is back like how many years ago? Maybe like, I'm giving away my age, but like 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, and it was like, so everybody was going to like databases, and I went to JavaScript and learning about Java. And obviously that's the kind of programming that's in web. And the final practical was to create a dating website. So that was quite interesting. And after a full year of like totally being engrossed in computers and everything, I actually didn't ever want to see a computer after that. So I packed my bags and I went to Paris, and I lived in Paris for a year. And then after living in Paris for a year, I was a au pair in Paris for 3 very, very naughty boys. And then,
good practice for later in life. Good practice for later
definitely.
In life.
But then I had 2 girls, so I don't know if that's the right practice. But anyway, then I went to London, and I kind of think, you know, when you're so young, I just kind of lost my way. And then I ended up working in insurance and all just kind of random jobs. And then I decided to move back to South Africa. And that's when I'd kind of in London touch on like a blogging course. And I thought, you're right, I want to be a blogger. And I hated the writing part, and all I liked was making it pretty. And how do I put this button here? And back then it was like Blogger. I don't know if you ever remember Blogger, and it was more like Blogger and WordPress.com, and WordPress was kind of just coming out, and it was like Tumblr. I don't know if you remember Tumblr, like all that kind of stuff. And I remember, so my dad lives in Scotland, and I was waiting for a flight to his house, and it was delayed or something. So I went to the bookstore and I found a book on WordPress, and I bought this WordPress book. And I kind of think that was like, and you know, when people say, and that's the end of the story, sort of, or that's the beginning kind of like the rest journey, is history, you know, that, and the rest is history. That's the wording. And I was hooked. I went to my day job. I did my insurance job, and I came home, and I would, from about 5 o'clock in the evening till like probably midnight, I would just sit trying to learn WordPress, trying to learn Blogger. And then I moved back to South Africa, and I met someone who needed help with a website, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. It was like, I would do one job, and then she would tell someone else and tell someone else and tell someone else. And I didn't even have my own website, which was amazing. And then the next thing, I was like, okay, I'm going out on my own. I'm starting my own business. I'm a web designer. I'm a web developer.
Yeah.
And that was about 6 or 7 years ago. And I still absolutely love my job, and I love it because it continuously changes, and I'm continuously growing and learning, and that's what makes me the happiest.
Because because it sounds a little bit like you really have this drive to have your own business, you know, also what you're saying, like, and I have friends and I tell them to. So do you understand where that drive is coming from? I mean, why do you have this drive to have your own business? I mean, you could have also worked for someone.
Do you know what it is? So when I worked for a company in the UK, I worked for an insurance company, and I'd always reached kind of like this threshold of like, okay, I've learned everything. Now what? It's like, and then I used to like go to my manager and be like, okay, what else have you got for me? What else?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
She would be like, oh my gosh, Nicola, like, how can you, like, you just keep asking me? And I'm like, I don't have anything. And then she would like look to other departments to find things. And then she always asked me, don't you want to manage the team? And I was like, it's kind of not my thing. I don't want to be like a leader, a manager. So it was more just, So the drive to start a business is about constantly learning and evolving. And when you work for yourself, it's the biggest self-development tool. You learn so much. I mean, you wear like a million hats a day. You're doing your accounts, you're doing everything, and you're trying to figure things out. And the online space has changed so much in 7 years. And I can see in the next 2 years it's going to change. And the next, 5 years it's going to change. And then I'm still going to be learning. And I'm still trying to reach different levels in my business. And it just makes me so happy when I'm constantly growing. And I think that's what it is. That's why I have that drive. If I work for someone else, I get bored.
Exactly.
I'm just not going anywhere. I feel like it's that mundane. I wake up at 9, I come home at 5, I go to work at 9, come home at 5. There's nothing more. There's no building process.
Because would you say, because do you feel, is that just professional, or have you also learned a lot about yourself personally?
Oh, both. Personally, professionally, every aspect. It just, I think, you learn stuff in your business that just spills over into your personal life. And definitely.
But can you name a few things that you learned about yourself?
Wow. Where do I start?
I don't know.
I don't even know where to start. What have I learned? Gosh. I just think I have changed so much as a person since starting my business. I'm more reflective and observant of like the things that I do. Well, I don't know what else.
That's a good one though. That's a really good one. And when you are observant, do you also feel like you are is that in a non-judgmental way, or do you have the tendency to judge yourself when you are?
Well, I definitely both ways. It depends on the situation. So, I mean, I've just recently launched a course, which you may have seen on Instagram. So I launched my first course. I did a mini launch about 2 years ago, but this was like going all in. And this is the kind of direction I want to go in now, is to teach people to create their own website. And so the judgment comes up a lot there. And but I can observe that and say, okay, well, there's judgment. But it's also, I'm like, I want to be 10 steps ahead of where I am now. Or I follow people on Instagram and it's like, why am I not there yet? I should be there. But then I always have to come back and say, but I am here now.
Stay in your lane.
Always.
Because I think that's the thing. I find that so overwhelming from Instagram, because the moment you start, because as you know, like I'm a yoga teacher and a chef, and the moment you start like, oh, but I mean, I'm not like that, or oh my God, they're doing this. It's like, it's just, I really learned one thing is like, stay in my lane. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing,
How do you do that if you are on Instagram?
Well, definitely get the fuck off Instagram is a good first step. Or definitely what I try to do now is just be on it less. Like I just don't want to, because also I don't, especially when, I have a full-time job now of cooking, and I'm too busy to be on it anyway. But I feel for me, staying in my lane is very much about like focusing on myself and knowing that I am enough where I am, and that the what you're doing as well, what you're saying about learning is the same for me. Like I learn all the time. I'm now doing a 500-hour teacher training. I'm already a teacher. I've been teaching for 8 years. And like you, I was also a little bit like, so what's next? And I was so ready to be, I have an incredible teacher. I'm learning a lot from him. So it's a little bit like, challenging yourself, but knowing like, this is where I am. And this might not be perfect, or that might not be perfect. But I'm not gonna, I think it's a little bit like when you're on a yoga mat and you are on your mat and you're in a space with a lot of people around. I see students do this all the time, where they look at their neighbor, like, oh, but they can do a headstand, or but they can't. And I think one thing that I've learned very much, like whatever happens left or right for me, like I'm here and this is my practice and it's sacred and I should be proud of what I'm doing. It's a process and it's not always easy, but I think that especially when you are, I think
why I admire you so much is because you are in an industry that's competitive, like there's, I don't know, hundreds of not Nicolas, but people that do the same as you do. So how do you stand out? Like, how do you